because it actually was part of it, which I didn't know at the time. I got this character that came into a session, and he was a very unique soul. He was a very, very unique soul. He had very, very extraordinarily different DNA. And I'm talking like a very, I don't know how to describe it, okay? Everybody's unique in their own ways, and everybody's got these beautiful stories, but something about him was just very different. And but the message that came in with him, because I've told you guys before that you all carry in your DNA different pieces that are part of the whole collective, and sometimes you might get groups of similar beings, but sometimes you get these little pieces that come in, and you're like, oh wow, that changed the whole group. We call that quantum entanglement, because now you got one energy that came in that influenced all these other energies just because they had a little different energy. Well, that can happen, and that can happen just by two people coming together and having energies start to change and shift. This can be a positive thing, and it can also be a not positive thing, because, and we'll talk about the not positive in a little while, because that's part of what we're going to talk about today in this channeling and transmission. But on a positive note, then we can receive pieces of our ancient truth from one another's DNA, especially if you're a DNA decoder like I am. Then I'm able to retrieve that information and bring it out into the collective, and it becomes a gift for everybody that really kind of came in through him and through me. And through you guys, as you guys doing this, and some of you guys have seen that happen in some of our group sessions too. But anyhow, he came in, he was very, very interesting. His story was very interesting and unique. And I was taken into a planetary system that I don't have the name for. And I'm not joking when I tell you that I saw beings there that looked exactly like you saw in the movie Maleficent. You guys are all seen Maleficent. And it was the most very profound message that came through. I mean, they're all profound, really, but it was very, very, very awesome. And the message, though, that came in, and I think that part of it was because he works with doing like sound healing, and he is partially, I believe, partially a Centurion, but his DNA was, he had lots of DNA codes. You guys have probably worked with me enough to know that you're not just one starseed. There's lots of mixes there in your story. And so anyhow, one of the things that they brought in was some light language, which we're going to cover today also, which turned out to be what the Centurions were telling me today to talk about. So when I told you yesterday that we were channeling the Centurions, we talked about the Crystal City, and we're going to cover that. There's also, they tied this other part in today, and that's why I'm bringing it up, is it all came together, and it was like, oh, that's what you're saying. Okay, interesting. So, so it's all connected. Everything's all connected in some most magical ways. And it's kind of like God or the universe or the multiverse is this grand orchestra, and everything is constantly moving and changing in this perfect way. And we're just picking up these pieces and doing the dance along the way, and finding new things as we go and remembering new things as we go. So I have to take a drink of this because I have to. I still have extreme chemical burns that I'm struggling with that are very, very, very difficult to overcome. So, okay, so anyway, the pieces that came in from his session are going to get interwoven into today, because I was guided by the Centurions after they showed up. They showed up a couple days ago, and it was kind of interesting for me because I haven't really dealt with them a whole lot, but I know who they are. And I remember them from other galaxies. And so I recognized right away when they came in who they were. The Centurions, if you're not familiar with who they are really powerful and very intelligent and almost feisty about the protection of the planet and planets. They're guardians of the planet itself and planetary systems. They're very protective about that. Highly, highly, highly protective. They're very extremely noble beings that work in many different collectives, because there's, again, subgroups of groups, right? It's very complex. But anyhow, they're coming in because they want to talk about partially the light language that came in through the man's reading, and what they're talking about with the holographic universe, but also with the grids on Earth. And so, and again, some of you guys have worked with me enough to know that some of the work that many beings are doing on Earth right now is creating and pulling in and bringing in frequency and gridding around the planet itself to assist in the planetary ascension process, but also to restore the genetic coding that also got distorted all the way into a planetary level. So Earth herself has been manipulated and corrupted in a lot of ways. And so a lot of beings that are on the Earth right now, some are specifically working on um, restoring those grids, weaving, we call these architects of light. They're weaving light throughout the earth plane to assist in that restoration, and also the rebalancing of Mother Earth, because we know that she's been off kilter for a long, long time, and it's causing this fall system, and the negative forces created that, believe it or not, and the positive forces are working to shift it back into gear and to allow Gaia to ascend. So I took a couple notes today because I was working with them before I came into the channeling, and so I just want to kind of cover what we're talking about. But yeah, so the gridding that was done from the negative beings is also a gridding that's gone around the earth plane, which you guys have heard us talk sometimes about having this astral netting around the planet that is non-benevolent. And then, of course, we have the benevolent grid workers that are doing the positive gridding. Well, the negative gridding has caused DNA manipulations to even the animal kingdom, to the plants, everything. It's affected everything, and it's unfathomable that any being from any planetary system would do such destructive things, because it affects everyone, including them. And so it's just completely unconscious and foolish. So foolish is an understatement, truthfully, of what they've done and what we're trying to restore now. It's a massive project, massive. So so again, the Centurions are specifically, you would, if you saw them in the human world, many of them will be environmentalists. That's the kind of work that they're involved in doing. They're very involved in environmental projects. They're very involved in making sure that the water stays clean and keeping the earth healthy and keeping chemicals out of the dirt. And those are the types of beings that are centurions. Now, that doesn't mean that every centurion is an environmentalist or vice versa, but it is kind of the work that they are specifically focused on. That's the type of beings that they are. That's what they're called to do. That's part of their calling and part of the reason that they came into this earth plane. They're also sometimes involved in politics because, and I know that that can be very messy, because politics is like going into a den of vipers, literally. And so a lot of starseeds won't want to do that, but some do for the sake of the planet. And so not every single person that works in politics is a negative being. There are some good ones out there, and that's the reason that they go into that. Is excruciatingly painful as a light worker as it is to be involved in political environments. It's also quite necessary, especially at this time, because that is the only way that we're going to turn things around.